last night, there were a lot of things that we criticized about the evening, because I feel like nights 1 and 2, which is not really typical, were better in terms of tone. Night 1 in particular, the AOC speech, abortion was a big focus of the first night. The second night also had Bernie Sanders speak and things like that. But last night they were going with the immigration stuff, which is, I think, causing apparently some internal tensions within the party because they seem to just be regurgitating the right-wing pivot that Biden has engaged in order to stave off what polling says is Harris's biggest weakness. But it's not being reflected in terms of people not voting for her because her poll numbers keep skyrocketing. Or at least, there's still a lot of work to do. She's in a much better position than Biden was. So I wish that they were a little bit, more principled on that matter.
I like more Julian Castro. I think maybe because he called Biden old too early. He's a premature Biden's too old guy. That he's maybe he should be rewarded for that, not sidelined for it. And he also happens to be one of the better messengers on immigration. Right.
Yeah. I would like Castro to have a place in this administration. We shall see. But the best part of the night was Tim Walz's speech. I mean, it lived up to the hype. Again, undercut by what we'll talk about in just a second with Daniel Denver about the uncommitted movement, the sit-in outside. But in terms of the domestic pivot for the Democrats, Walz focused on neighborliness. He focused on public schools repeatedly. He talked about workers. He spoke about freedom in a way that yanks it from the right. Freedom from the government controlling your bodies. Freedom from your children having to worry about breakfast and lunch because he touted his programs in Minnesota that he signed into law, where he created a program for free breakfast and lunch in Minnesota, something that Harris reportedly admired about his record, and that's part of why she picked him for VP, which is encouraging to me domestically. So, oh, did you want to say something, Matt?
No.
Yeah, like I couldn't, outside of course, the overwhelming weight and sadness about Gaza, I couldn't have asked for a better vice presidential pick speech. And this is how he ended that speech, saying some things like housing and healthcare are human rights. This was really phenomenal.
Kamala Harris is tough. Kamala Harris is experienced, and Kamala Harris is ready. Our job for everyone watching is to get in the trenches and do the blocking and tackling. 1 inch at a time, 1 yard at a time, 1 phone call at a time, 1 door knock at a time, 1 $5 donation at a time. Look, we got 76 days. That's nothing. There'll be time to sleep when you're dead. We're going to leave it on the field. That's how we'll keep moving forward. That's how we'll turn the page on Donald Trump. That's how we'll build a country where workers come first. Healthcare and housing are human rights. And the government stays the hell out of your bedroom. That's how we make America a place where no child is left hungry, where no community is left behind, where nobody gets told they don't belong. That's how we're gonna fight. And as the next president of the United States always says, when we fight, thank you. God bless.
That rocked. I loved the addition of housing and healthcare as a human right because, unfortunately,
it's been not
healthcare hasn't been much of a focus, and especially when you contrast it with, of course, how Obama ran in 2008, and then the Bernie Sanders campaign in 2016, emphasizing Medicare for all.
Everyone loved it in 2020.
Yeah. Right, including Kamala Harris until she didn't, and then she adjusted it to just dental and vision, and some of the most egregious examples of being gouged for our healthcare. But I don't want to display cynicism in this moment just because this is what we've asked for so long, I think, on the left. Civically minded politics, as opposed to a bunch of neoliberal economics and consultant class folks making determinations of how we can, craft our language in the most specific way possible to really not change much, but gesture at these kinds of things. Walz has the track record in Minnesota that backs up delivering for working families. One of the most pro-labor governors in the country. The school lunch and breakfast program is legit. He banned non-competes. He also, I think, engendered sectoral bargaining with nursing students, which is something that I think the SEIU, a union that Harris is close with, also has advocated for, and she said something to that effect back when she was running the first time around. These are tangible changes, and domestically, I'm thrilled with the direction that this ticket is going.
Yeah, and Bronco March teachers on Democracy Now, and the change that's occurred, at least from like the mid 2000s when I started really following politics, is the progressive things that Walz signed, which he ran as sort of a moderate. A lot of the stuff comes from progressives within Minnesota, but the things that he is now championing for used to be seen as liabilities when things like the VP stakes come on. Now it's seen as an asset, and I think that's something to mark and try to build upon.
Yes,
it's a silver lining among storm clouds.
Yes, and I do think it marks a shift in the Democratic Party that we haven't seen in my entire lifetime and before that, right? I mean, Bill Clinton, who also spoke last night, set this party back quite a bit with trickle-down economics and, austerity politics being applied to things like welfare. We are in a much better position at this moment, just in terms of what is in the permission structure of the Democratic Party. I think the Walz pick moved that forward as well. And just aesthetically, I'm like, put me in, coach. Put me in.
Well, and a lot of part of it is what Dan talked about with Sam yesterday, which is that whereas in 2008, when Obama was elected, the idea space was entirely covered by neoliberals and bankers. Mm-hmm. And they're somewhat discredited now, and there's a little bit of a vacuum, which is why I think Biden, has the progressive achievements, neutered as they are, that he does. And that's why, I think these things are moving in a
positive direction.
Intervention in the economy is going to become more than it was in the neoliberal era, because it was stupid that we weren't doing public goods and stuff like that. But now the question is, how democratic are we going to make it, or is it going to be cutouts through giant corporate partners that are going to be housing developers and stuff like that, or are we going to actually make this democratic? And that's the fight.
Well, but even in the policies that I have issues with sometimes, but we saw it even under Trump in what was agreed to in the stimulus under COVID.
Exactly.
Putting money, and then Biden adopted it and attempted to expand the child tax credit, and we know how that went with Joe Manchin. But Harris has adopted that into her platform. It's a radical departure from 2008, recovering from the economic crash, bailing out the banks,
Talking and not about austerity.
Bailing out the banks, folks. And
everyone else, tighten your belts.
And not putting money in the hands of people. Can you imagine how that recovery would have gone, as opposed to the anemic, slow recovery that happened under Obama, which cost the Democrats, in part, 1,000 seats across the country in 2010 in the midterms, if money was in the pockets of people? And that's what's encouraging to me. The expanded child tax credit, which Harris is doing a good job of selling as well, and even things like the homeowner kind of down payment assistance. Even though, again, home ownership, centering that as a pillar of economic prosperity, it's not exactly my politics. But the fact that the philosophy is, let's give direct assistance to people to make their lives easier. Tangible improvements over the past, what's 2024 minus 2008? Gosh, was it 16 years
16
ago?
years.
Oh. Over the past 16 years. Obama was elected 16 years ago.
Yeah, I think
Boy.
we should let you have your midlife crisis and get to some ads, maybe.
All right. Moving it along.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.